Long ago, about 300 years ago, the ancestors decided to make a contract. Someday, if you have offspring, let's get them engaged. Make the term longer. Suddenly, they will be the same sex or the age difference will be too big. It was just a joke promised from the old men. But the problem was in the paper on which the contract was written. Even if you burn it in lava or throw it into the deepest sea, it still returns back to its place. Their children have already grown up, reached the age of majority, learned about the existence of the contract, and they really don't like everything that is written in it, especially the last point. In case of violation of the contract, misfortune will befall the family. Be that as it may, initially too timid, Mevia would not have withstood Gilbert's pressure and would have agreed to his proposal of marriage. But the modern world's Mrs. Kim was completely different, because she already knew how this story would end. There were two children in the family, Gilbert, the eldest son, who was adopted by the Grand Duke, and the second son, Rehan. Rehan had a kind heart and a talent for magic. He became the main character of this novel. But the envious Gilbert was overcome with a feeling of inferiority. Thus, the guy became the main villain of this novel. 1 year later, Gilbert would take as his wife the daughter of a noble family. Yes, that's right. The unfortunate woman who became the villain's wife was Mevia. Her family was on the verge of bankruptcy due to a series of bad investments. She could not resist the threats of Gilbert, who took advantage of the family contract. One day, while spending hellish days in the north, Mevia thought that perhaps it would have been better if she had not married in the first place. If she were born again, she would definitely not repeat this mistake. But this story will not be repeated again, because Mrs. Kim, reborn in the body of Mevia, saved the dying mouth of Morgan. So much so that the rooms were filled with gold and silver. Such reserves would last for at least several lifetimes. Meanwhile, the girl and the guy are sitting at the same table and trying to decide what to do next. Unlike him, she behaves very calmly, and the guy looks at her and gets even angrier. He is perplexed by what she is doing, asks what he did to annoy her so much, and she is also calmly surprised, and asks him what she did wrong, and also says that if he doesn't calm down right now, then she can postpone this conversation until the next day. Then she said with a smile that she was just interested in his father because he had raised such a wonderful person as Gilbert. She would really like to meet him. The girl had hinted before that she was not indifferent to that man. The guy thought that he had made something up for himself. But now she says directly that his father is single, and it would probably be better if she signed this contract with him. Also, she asked him to look at one point. There is a note. There is no age limit, social status, and other factors. Now it's clear why he's so angry with her after hearing something like that. No other person in his place would be able to remain calm. A girl his age seriously wants to marry his father. Earlier, he somehow didn't read the contract carefully and didn't pay attention to this point. But now this information has finished him off completely. Out of desperation, he already asked her what she wants. He is ready to provide anything. Dresses, jewelry. But this is not quite what she needs now and what can surprise her. He tells her that she would have to be just as greedy to not be satisfied with the title of Grand Duchess. And she just looks at him calmly, as if there was nothing wrong with her decision. He wonders if she is acting like this because of her background. Mevia doesn't want to listen to him anymore, so she decided to hint that it's time for him to go. She called the maid with the bell and asked her to take Sir Gilbert outside. She was even ready to call him a carriage, or he just didn't keep her. Finally, to really anger him, she asked him to convey her greetings to the Grand Duke. After that, the girl laughed. It was as if she liked to see his irritated face, although it was understandable too. After everything he heard from her, he simply has no words, only emotions, and complete bewilderment that she even thought of such a thing. North, the Grand Duchy of Calicus. Here, even from the outside, you can feel a special energy that is very different from other regions. The house is very quiet. There is not a single sound. The windows are curtained so that no extra light gets in. And then someone wakes up, but not the owner of the house, but his, so to speak, little friend. There are a lot of them here, but only one snake woke up. It is huge, emerald-colored, and hisses very loudly, which can also wake you up. She crawled up to her master, asking how much longer she had to wait for him and how she could sleep for so long, especially in the middle of the day. The guy has a book on his head. This is the same famous lazy guy, Lord of the Northern Lands. edis kalakis. It is very rare to see this person doing something, especially if it does not concern him personally and if the matter can be entrusted to someone else. 10 days ago, a guy came to the girl. As he said, he came on the orders of Mr. Gilbert. He apologized for coming late, but she didn't even talk to him, so he had to come to her again 3 days later. That is, 7 days ago, he was with her too. He hoped that she was in a good mood that day, but alas. After that, he came 4 days later, and when she opened the door for him, this time he was in tears, begging her to meet with Mr. Gilbert for at least half an hour. With each passing day, he believed less and less that she would agree and began to get tired of going to her so often. And he was afraid to hint to the gentleman that he should send someone instead of him. And in the meantime, another day has come. The weather is wonderful outside, and Mevia is in the same wonderful mood. From the very morning, she calmly woke up, ordered herself a dessert, and began to enjoy the beginning of the day. She had just taken her first bite when the maid burst into the room and said it was urgent. She acts like something terrible happened, but in reality, she just came to say that they received a gift, and it seems to be from Mr. Gilbert, which is not surprising. Just in case, the lady warned Sarah to behave more calmly next time, because if she was in a bad mood, such emotions could only make things worse. And after that, she still asked to see what that annoying person had sent. She thought she would see something beautiful, but these were morning chrysanthemums, which ruined the whole mood. The assistant says that maybe he doesn't understand flowers. But in any case, the fact remains that this is not what girls are usually pleased with. Out of all the flowers he could have chosen, he chose these. Out of the blue, she seemed to forget everything she had just said and thought that perhaps he hadn't done it on purpose. Maybe these white flowers looked nice to him, so he took them, especially since he is the kind of person for whom all flowers are the same. And how could he know that these particular ones were not worth giving? Sarah still thinks that this is too much. She thinks that in the house of the Grand Duke, they don't teach even basic norms and manners. And she also said that he can't come himself and only torments his servants, who come almost every day. The girl replied that the assistant had made a very apt observation. He has a terrible character, leaves everyone to their own devices and thinks that everyone owes him. And then she got up from the table and suggested that instead of sitting like this within 4 walls, they go somewhere to unwind. But that's not all. If she means to have fun, it means not counting money, enjoying the moment, and allowing yourself everything that comes to mind. The main goal is not to return home until they spend all the money. Mavia has long dreamed of this, and now she finally has this opportunity every day. Even though the maid won't get anything, she, like any other girl, will be happy to at least watch this and keep her company. Just before leaving, she asked to burn the flowers so that when they arrived, there was nothing to spoil the mood. And in the meantime, they are already in her favorite store, which the girl never passes by. And since it is a great honor for the sellers to serve Mavia, and not specifically for this reason, they closed the store so that she would feel as comfortable as possible and no one would bother her. Even those girls who booked a visit in advance, the entrance is also closed to them, but they immediately guessed who was inside. It was not difficult. Mavia thanked for such kindness. She likes when people treat her like that. That's why she chooses this store every time she goes shopping. Here is the best service. Clothes, and it smells very nice. At some point, she had an idea to invite her 2 friends. They arrived literally half an hour later, and during this time, she had just had some tea. Now they are all sitting on the sofas. The consultant said that as soon as they need any help, they can contact her at any time. She will be here nearby. The girls greeted each other, thanked her for the invitation. Those ladies were just bored at home and didn't know what to do. The third Marquis's daughter, Charlie Morgos, had never even heard of the store, and she just needed to pick something out for her friend Monica's birthday, to which the girl replied that she was grateful to them for agreeing to join her today. So she definitely wouldn't be bored, and they would all have a good time. Charlie is very happy that now she can calm down because all the best dresses are collected here, and there is no chance to choose something ugly. Remembering last year's birthday, she feels somehow uneasy. Literally, every woman she met came up to her and said what kind of outfit it was. Supposedly, no one would buy it even for free. Mevia imagines how terrible it was. She supported her friend and promised that this year, everything would be the opposite. They would envy her and ask with tears in their eyes the store where she bought her new dress. It was very sweet of her. After such words, Charlie can't wait for her birthday to come there in a luxurious outfit. All the time, while they are not discussing how they will be the most beautiful, the same girl who offended Charlie last year is already trying to break into the store. She came to go shopping. She doesn't care that the store is closed. She asked to open the door, and they politely tried to explain to her that they have an important guest and they can't do it. The girl began to remind that earlier she was told that she could come here at any time, and she was unhappy that some important guest had appeared who was more important than her. She became curious about who it was that they dared to refuse her as a regular customer who came here several times a week. She was always very impudent, so it was no problem for her to break in despite the ban, but only to see who was keeping her out. The consultant starts saying that they could be fined for this, but the lady doesn't care. Her own interests are much more important to her. She pretended that her friend was inside, although this was not the case and the excuse was so. So she was politely asked to leave, but she did not listen to anyone and broke all the rules. In the end, she was able to freely enter the central hall where the girls were already choosing their options from the catalog. And of course, she recognized this girl at first sight. She didn't even have to look at her face. Everything was clear from her hair. Monica didn't show that she was very angry. On the contrary, she pretended as if she came here to say hello and had nothing against them. Instead of calmly leaving here, since she already understood everything, the girl went further and interfered with the customers choosing dresses. Everyone greeted Monica, pretended as if it was a very pleasant meeting, although for everyone present, it was the opposite. Charlie is especially not happy with her, and Monica just asked what she was doing here, as if hinting that this is not her level of store. It was clear from her half-word and her special look. Monica allowed herself to say that no matter how much she spent on a dress, without a sense of style, it would be worse than a rag for 1 silver coin. Charlie replied that they would still see about that. After all, Manhwa would help her with the choice, and she had no problem with taste. The girl thought that since she was already here, there was no need to rush to say goodbye. She very brazenly came up and sat right in the middle of the sofa between them. It was terribly ugly of her. She didn't even ask if anyone was against her joining them. She says that she just wants to help with the choice. Although it is obvious that her intentions are far from good, Charlie hinted that it is not necessary, and Monica asked if anyone really doubts her taste and can refuse her help. Then she said that Manhwa is beautiful, so she will look good even in a potato sack, and that there is no need to waste her time, and advises Charlie to trust her taste. Manhwa didn't understand whether it was just a compliment in her direction or not, but she thought that even though Monica was described as a villain in the novel, in reality she is quite nice. She just doesn't know how to be honest and polite with others. The girl leafed through the catalog for a very long time. She approached this matter very responsibly and really wanted to pick out something good. She flipped through almost half of it and noticed a very pretty purple dress. She thought that bright and feminine outfits would go best with Charlie's faded look. Of course, it couldn't be without such unpleasant words after all. They are not best friends and nothing else should have been expected. Charlie looked at this dress and said that it was too pretentious, and she usually doesn't wear such things. Monica began to be indignant that the lady should trust her now, try on this dress, and only then express her opinion. Suddenly, Manhwa joins them and suggests that Monica try on this dress first. She thinks that purple will suit her. Moreover, it goes very well with red hair, and maybe when choosing a dress for Charlie, she intuitively chose something that she herself might like. The girl didn't think about it somehow. She doesn't even know what will come of it, but she's in no hurry to refuse either. She was even a little confused. She was used to answering rudely, but at first she kept silent about this, and then she thought about how to react. Monica usually doesn't like such styles, but if the girl insists, she is ready to experiment. After that, Manhwa also found an option for Charlie. She found it on page 17, and it seems to her that such elegant shades would suit her very well. Monica is already unhappy that her offer was rejected, and that Charlie listened more to her friend than to her, although there is nothing strange about that. Monica turned to Manhwa and said that it seemed like the rumors she heard were true after all. She heard that Sister Gilbert proposed to her, and she really hopes that now she will hear that the girl refused him, and also asked some strange question. that if she did agree and understood the proposal, then why before the wedding she suddenly decided to show her good side, even in relation to her. The other girls remembered that Sister Gilbert was the son of the great Duke of Calacas, and of course they wanted to know something about it too. So that there would be no more rumors, she immediately told everyone that she had rejected the offer, and if another one came, she would do the same. So Monica says that Sister Gilbert, even though he looks noble, but he is an adopted son, and she always wanted to know if it is true or not. Some say it is true, some deny it, and in general she finds it funny to see how he tries to behave like a real aristocrat of noble birth. Charlie thought that this was too much, then she told Monica directly, and also hinted that if she had such an opinion about a person, then it was strange to say such things about him to others, and not to him personally. The girl doesn't understand what she said wrong and what's so bad about her word. She just meant that Mevia deserves more, and she doesn't need to waste her energy on this Duke, especially since if she marries him, she'll have to go to that dark north where there's nothing good. At that moment, Mevia decided to stop talking about this. She asked not to worry about her, especially since she was not going to discuss her personal life and such things with Monica. After she said that she had turned down the offer from the Duke, said that she would be very happy to live with her husband in the north. And after that, the girls got a little confused. She had just said something completely different. It's just that no one guesses that, even though she doesn't like Gilbert, it doesn't mean that she doesn't want to become part of this family. Then she said that she felt very bad. She was too tired from all this shopping, said goodbye and started to leave. She also feels some kind of unpleasant atmosphere, suspects that Monica came to them for a reason and that she is not the kind of person she enjoys spending time with. Also, it all seems like it's repeating itself. Monica in the original novel said nasty things about Gilbert every day, like just now. This slander began to be considered her words, and as soon as she accidentally nodded, everything ended in a beating. But this was not enough, and she decided to climb into his bed, even though she knew that he had a fiancé. She didn't care about her feelings, her plans. She, as always, thought only about herself and was ready to destroy any relationship so that she would feel good. And for Mevia and Monica, it would have been better to never meet a person like Gilbert. If you look at the situation from the other side, if he was a loyal guy, he would never betray his girlfriend or even look at someone else. She already wanted to go to her room so as not to see or hear anyone, but on the way she met the one she didn't want to see the most. This look is so disgusting to her that it seems like it would be better if he had some girl who would take all his attention and he would not pester her anymore. She really wants to say that it's a bit of an inopportune moment that she wants to be alone, but as practice shows, he doesn't understand such hints. You need to speak to him as directly as possible, and even if you do so, he will do exactly the opposite, and even out of spite. Words cannot describe how she restrains herself from telling him everything she thinks, while the girl also tries not to show it with emotions, and she is very good at it. It's impossible to think that she's not happy to see him. She's absolutely neutral, as if she saw some friend and wouldn't mind chatting. He is already asking her to say at least something, pretending that he did not propose to her and she did not refuse him. The girl doesn't know anyone else who is a more complex person. He doesn't take rejection well, and that's his biggest problem. So as not to remain silent, well, she told him that she had been shopping and was very tired, so it would be very difficult to talk now. She had already talked a lot all day, and suddenly, out of the blue, he started laughing, but she hadn't said anything funny. The lady asked what she said to make him react so strangely, and then he says that he was not perceptive enough. Then he asked if he understood correctly that she wanted to see how he was being tormented, and probably that's why she was behaving like that, so that he would leave her alone. To which she replied that she had already clearly said that she was not going to marry him, and there was no point in him trying to change anything now. He said that he did not believe it and thought that it was not said seriously, and she was already nervous and said that her words were real, and she was ready to where she would do it to him even 1,000 times. So the guy grabs her hand, asks her not to go overboard with these pathetic antics that will not end well, and then she realizes that she is starting to get to know the real him. He also begins to hint that his patience is running out, that if he hears something like this again, she will see him as a completely different person. Mevia is not a fearful person. she answered in a calm voice, that if he wants to intimidate her, then he will regret it later. And also, after this, he definitely has no chance of getting her consent. It was not there anyway, and now even more so. All this time, as it turned out, her friends were eavesdropping on this conversation. At that moment, they went right after her and admitted that they had followed her a little. The girl didn't have time to react to this. They will discuss this further, but it's very good that they were nearby. Charlie began to push the guy away, asked what was unclear in her friend's words, and if necessary, she was ready to accompany her even to the room. He says he just came to talk to the lady who dared to break her promise and doesn't understand what right they have to treat him like that. After that, he asked them to leave this place for a while, but Charlie does not give up. She understands perfectly well that if a friend reacts badly to a person, it means that he is really unworthy of her attention, and in such a situation, she definitely needs help. The girl is ready to call security. She is not going to tolerate such rudeness towards Mavia. She is an adult who does not want to see him, and this should be enough for him not to bother her. His girlfriend looked at him with such a cold gaze that he immediately had unpleasant memories, after which he does not allow anyone to look at him like that. He even felt a little dizzy. He can't stand such situations, especially if it concerns his personal life. When you treated him like that very often, he couldn't really come to anyone with any request, even if it was something serious. Of course, after such a past, he could not react normally. He asked how the girl dares to talk to him like that. After all, he sees her for the first time, and she just interfered in a personal conversation, although no one asked her to do so. In the end, a lot of people gathered on the street, and even now he was not afraid to say that after being considered a nobody all his life, he would rule the entire North, whether anyone liked it or not. Mavia could no longer contain herself. She warned that if he did not want to be arrested, he should leave right now and not test her patience. And then he notices that there are more and more people. For a moment, he becomes afraid that they might tell someone that they heard this, who will interfere with his plans. Meanwhile, a carriage drives up, the door opens, and the assistant who arrived in it calls the lady and suggests that they quickly go inside. Charlie also began to insist that the girl quickly go to a safe place and let her go first. The lady thanked for such care. She is pleased to know that there are those around her who can always support and protect her. She just stepped over the threshold to calmly leave here. The guy starts to stop her, and she ignored him. He doesn't want to hear anything about someone else becoming her husband and is ready to do everything possible and impossible to make their wedding happen as soon as possible. Finally, he promised that he would come for her on the day of the imperial ball, even if she did not want to see him then. To which she asked him if she had said something wrong or expressed herself incorrectly. Otherwise, how could he not understand what she meant? Sometime after Mavia left for the North, a fashion emerged to politely refuse an offer to become partners, namely to show a certain finger, after which it immediately becomes clear what is meant. They say that sometimes, to show that they don't want to meet anymore, they even burn flowers, as the girl actually did. A year has already come. Another evening, she has been very tired lately and too runs to the room so as not to fall asleep right in the hallway. She already wants to finally get rid of these problems that prevent her from living peacefully. She is afraid that at any moment that unfortunate groom may come to her house. The maid watches the mistress, tries to put herself in her place, and cannot imagine what she would do in her place. The situation is very complicated. You need to be able to stop communicating with a person so as not to remain enemies, and in a secular society, this is very important. What worries them most is the question of how he even knew that she was walking home at that time and could be met. The assistant also doesn't know how this could happen. It can only mean that someone is telling him this. It is possible that the man has his own spies, and they may be among the girl's usual social circle. She tries to think that this is not the case, although she is not sure that he would not have thought of such a thing. Knowing this person, he is ready for anything. In this case, the assistant advises to go out next time only with security, and it is better if there are several of them. Mavia replied that unfortunately everything is not as simple as it may seem. Many factors need to be taken into account. Although Gilbert doesn't look like it, he is considered the best swordsman in the entire empire. So if you go out with a guard, there should be at least 10 people around it, and preferably more. The assistant began to worry as if for herself. She has no idea what to do now and how to deal with him, because it seems that it is impossible. In any case, the lady is confident that they will be fine because they have something. And at that moment, the assistant immediately understood what was being discussed and also asked if the lady was really going to use it. The girl promised that there was no need to worry about it. She would use it only once, and only if it was really necessary and she had no other options. Then she said some strange phrase. Supposedly after the wedding, he wouldn't be able to even look at her. It would be so disgusting to him. Out of the blue, a huge bird appears near the house. It flies so fast that it knocks out the window and flies right into the room. They didn't really have time to react and notice how it happened. This had never happened before, and the assistant almost lost consciousness. She is very afraid of such surprises and almost dropped the cups. While the maid can't find a place for herself, thinking what to do, the mistress, surprisingly, behaves absolutely calmly, as if she suspects that this may be. At that moment, when the girl thought that it was most likely an attack or some kind of magical creature, even wanted to call the knights, the lady asked her to calm down and not rush. There is no need to call anyone. She feels that it is not necessary at all, and she also looked at this bird as if it was not dangerous at all. At some point, the bird significantly decreased in size, began to sit on her hand and no longer looked so scary but very cute. When she looked closely, she realized that it was a crow, and it also had very beautiful eyes and a cute little beak. It was impossible to believe that it had just knocked out the window and was much bigger. The girl greeted her, asked how she could help. The crow began to call, and Mivia thought that it was definitely a magical creature. Not a single real crow can shrink in size. And also, there is such a feeling as if the energy of this bird is very familiar to her, as if they have seen each other before, but this is what is not so. It is possible that this is the familiar of His Grace the Duke. She just thought about it and realized that it is very likely. It turns out that some time ago, the Duke found out that someone was persistently trying to become the husband of a certain lady. I even found some documents that confirm these suspicions. There were names written there. There is even a portrait of a girl, seeing which he became very interested in her. He had heard something about her before, but did not think that she was so beautiful. He asked his assistant, Raven, the same crow, to go and find out what Gilbert was up to. He thought that he could be stopped and try to win the favor of the sweet lady with whom he fell in love simply by looking at the portrait. He is interested to know what she is like in life, to get to know her, to hear her voice, especially since it is possible that she will like him too. When the crow was about to carry out the first order, he gave her a second one, to watch the girl, and, if necessary, he even allowed her to break into her room, which is what she actually did. And in the meantime, she talks to this crow and thinks that he could have thought that among the Duke's assistants there was such a cute creature, although he probably thought that she would not recognize this crow and would not feel anything. Meanwhile, in the capital, in the estate of the Duke of Kalakia, as usual, there is no peace. He could not sleep that night. All his thoughts are only about the inaccessible lady, whom he is already tired of conquering. It got to the point that he started breaking all the dishes in the house. Everything that breaks and shatters into pieces. It calms him down a little, but the maids aren't too thrilled about it. He also talks very loudly to himself, saying, "Who do you think you are to reject me like that? What did I do? Is it really so hard to agree to become my wife?" And he is also very angry at that very girl, Charlie, who looked at him with a crushing gaze that he cannot stand. Mentally addresses her, "Do you at least know what position I will take in the future? Then you will definitely apologize to me on your knees." He also said that everyone who made him so nervous and brought him to such a state will answer and will greatly regret it. And at this time, Raven, the Duke's crow, is already watching him. She hears all these words perfectly through the window. She has this ability, and also, her eyes transmit the picture to the gentleman, and he sees everything in real time. It's very convenient, but such a function doesn't seem special to him anymore. He got used to it a long time ago and uses it almost every day. For now, while few people know about it, it is very convenient. And in the meantime, an assistant came to the guy and brought what he asked for. Gilbert is behaving so inappropriately that the assistant is afraid to enter this room. The guy grabbed what he asked for and ordered him to leave here alive. It's like he doesn't control himself. The girl felt like she rejected him and made the right choice. Now he turns to her again and says out loud that she will still regret that she disgraced him and humiliated his honor. A little crow is still watching him. She felt it. She flew in just in time, just at the most interesting moment. When the guy was at the peak of emotions, this is exactly what the Duke would not mind seeing. Now he will understand why the lady does not want to marry this man, because at the very least, it will be unsafe, the slightest quarrel, and he can lose his temper, like now. After all the interesting stuff was over, the crow flew back to Mivia and spent all this time with her until the morning. The girl had already taken the bird in as her pet. She was very interested in making friends with it, and probably the feeling was mutual. Raven doesn't want to wake up. He tosses and turns on the bed and doesn't want to open his eyes no matter what. The girl heard that birds are usually very lazy, but she didn't think that they were so lazy. Even she, who likes to sleep, woke up before the crow. Finally, she got out of bed, started rubbing her eyes, gradually waking up, but it still happens very slowly. The crow begins to hint that she is very hungry, begins to look for food in the room, but there is none here. At this point, the girl asks where they are going. As if it does not depend on her, she is already dressed, tidied herself up, and is ready to make this day as productive as possible. She even started talking to Raven, told him that something interesting was going to happen soon. But the bird didn't understand what she was talking about. Mavia has been preparing for this day for so long, she has studied that guy to the very core. Now she knows him much better, probably, than he does himself. She even said one phrase very quietly, "Wait, Gilbert, I will use you and absorb everything, fate and all that." The lady had already gone outside. She asked to prepare a horse for her, just in case the assistant asked if the lady was sure that she could handle it. And she replied that there was no need to worry about it, because everything had been thought out to the smallest detail long ago. She is sure that nothing terrible will happen. Alice will not be harmed either, and very soon they will return back with good news. The assistant insists that the girl take at least one night with her. After all, it will be safer that way, and she can't imagine how she can calmly let Mavia go alone. The girl reminded that she had already spoken about this. She didn't need security. She didn't want anyone to get hurt because of her, if something didn't go according to plan, so she definitely decided to go alone. Especially if someone else shows up, he will be wary. This time we need to close this case once and for all, one-on-one. The crow also flew closer. It was very cute and nice that the bird was worried about her. The girl promised that everything would be fine and even allowed her to sleep for a few more hours. Also, she asked not to follow her and not to follow her until she herself returns. But this is no longer a fact. Then she asked the horse Alice to set off. After all, the faster they go, the faster they will return. Inside, she is a little worried, even doubting that her plan will work. But it is better than sitting idle and not solving this problem. After all, her happy future and safety were under threat, and in the meantime, she was already halfway there. But she didn't even suspect that this man was much closer than she expected. She caught a glimpse of him near the tree, thought that this couldn't be and was about to go on, but he stopped her. The girl immediately felt that same energy that she already knows very well and understood that it was definitely him, even if it seemed impossible. When the guy came closer, it looked like he wanted to harm the horse and even the horse itself. The girl was very scared. She asked what to understand by this, and he smiled and asked her to relax, because this is a usual greeting in his style. Anyway, it's even better that they met earlier than she planned, because again, the sooner she solves this problem, the sooner she can return home, if she returns, as hard as that may sound. He asked her how unexpected this meeting was for her, and smiles again as if he had something in mind too. Strangely, at this moment she asks him to get out of the way, as if she wants to show that she was not driving towards him at all. He immediately changed the subject, started saying that she had great posture, and thought that she must have taken horse riding lessons. After that, she asked if he really dared to stop her on the road because he liked her posture, and also said that if necessary, she could also teach him a few lessons. The conversation began to drag on very slowly. She really doesn't like it anymore, because she thought that everything would be easier and faster without dragging on. And then he says, so be it. He's ready to get down to business and give her one last chance. From that moment, Mavia almost laughed and already wanted to ask how long he had been rehearsing that confident smile. Then she asked what other chance. And he proudly said that she had a chance to accept her proposal and go to the ball with him. But that wasn't the most interesting part. He then continued and said that his father would never allow them to get married. Because for him, people are just a tool to achieve his goals. Nothing more, and that's a fact. Also, supposedly now his wife is a tool. No use to him, even if he allows the marriage to take place. Or marries her himself, it will not end well. The lady just laughed. She replied that in her opinion, he was much more merciful than this description, which someone had obviously spent the whole night making up. After that, she also thought of saying some unpleasant words to him, namely that at the very least, he was lagging behind his younger brother. And because he has no manners or basic rules of etiquette, he only ruins the reputation of his kind. She also said that he was not attractive at all, which was one of the reasons why she would never marry him. And most importantly, he hasn't been eliminated yet, so she's not going to connect her life with someone like him. Naturally, after such words, no one will react calmly. She hurt him and did it on purpose. The main thing is that now she does not regret it. Then she said that she thought he should have understood everything, said goodbye first and wished him a good day, as if nothing had happened. Unlike what he usually does, this time the guy let her go and let her leave freely, without even intimidating her. When she could no longer hear him, he said out loud that she had just missed her last chance, which would never come again. He promised himself that he would make her regret it for the rest of her life. For this, he only needed time. Up until this point, the guy seriously thought that this time he would act more sensibly. But it turned out that he couldn't hold back, and he wanted to deal with her right now while she was still close. He screamed very loudly and asked her to stop so that he could get rid of her legs so that no one would need her anymore. Naturally, she heard this, couldn't help but react, asked the horse to wait for her in a safe place somewhere nearby, and she went to deal with him. Since he dared to attack her, she decided to make him regret it right now. She began to make such quick and dexterous movements that he did not have time to follow her in order to get his bearings and strike. Then he just wanted to swing at her. She kicked him in the stomach so that he let go of the sword and became confused. It was so impressive that he even envied her technique and thought that it was a real disgrace. Mavia called the horse back. She needed its help, and then asked him if he felt ashamed that he was being handled so easily by a girl who had never held a sword in her hands. And to make it doubly offensive to him, she looked at him with that very look that he can't stand and called him not as scary as everyone thinks. The girl also promised that she would definitely tell people how easy it was to knock the sword off his hands, which would be a real shame. She really liked looking into those frightened eyes. And she also thought that she needed to press him because after that, he would hardly want to see her again and would offer these strange conditions. 11 years ago, there was a situation that I will probably never forget. An elderly man was talking to her. He was warning her that he would soon die. Although the girl was not yet ready for this conversation, she still listened to him. And she also felt that under the body of this man, there was a real devil who wanted to talk to her and offer a deal. He offered in exchange for her preparing a place for him where he would remain forever dead. He would give her a huge power that no one could defeat. It was a form of evil that was never mentioned in the novel. Although her whole body was numb with horror, she then instinctively understood that if she refused him or even hinted that she needed to think, he would make sure that she died before him. So she promised that she would find the best place for him to be after the furniture. After that, he handed her some kind of box. There were 8 jars inside of which there is something that can be used every time she needs strength. He also warned that there might be some side effects and that this power could only be borrowed for a short time. At that moment, the liquid was very bitter and tasteless, but he promised to make it strawberry flavored so that she could drink it like juice. Only then the girl could not even imagine that the red liquid was not just a liquid. It was something. Knowing what it was, she would never in her life agree to drink it, even if it tasted like strawberries. Meanwhile, somehow he realized that these are not her real powers. He began to accuse her of being a witch, but she is not afraid of it. Then he asked her directly if she had made some kind of contract with the devil, and she immediately replied that this was the case and that she had never hidden it. She just didn't think it necessary to tell everyone about it at every step. He immediately thought of going back and reporting everything to the imperial family, and she laughed and asked what exactly he was going to report. Was it really true that a weak lady had attacked him, No one would even believe it. And it would be too strange for him to complain about what happened. He would only make things worse because he positions himself as the strongest and invincible. As soon as he got closer to her, he immediately felt something very strange, similar to the energy of his own father, and he is sure that he is not mistaken. For this, he came even closer to her. And after that, he felt something even more powerful than his father's and became very wary. It even seemed to him that it was some kind of trap, that she could be an unusual person. He was even scared to think about it. Meanwhile, the crow flies nearby, and Mavia hasn't even noticed it yet. The Duke is watching what's happening and is very glad that he sent his assistant to them in time. Otherwise, he would have missed the most interesting part. The crow did it so that it would shrink several times more, so that it would definitely not be very noticeable, and it succeeded. Now the Duke has only one question. How could she predict his every move, although it is not yet entirely clear what he means? Half an hour has passed and these two are still in the same place and can't separate normally. The guy's friends have even started looking for him. One of them came on a horse, all scared, and doesn't understand what Gilbert is doing here for so long. Cullen Turner, a friend. Then he saw that he was here with Lady Mevia, introduced himself and greeted her too, although he doesn't even know why they were gathered here. The guy saw his friend very angry and asked how he could behave like that in the presence of such a nice lady. Cullen started to apologize for him. He felt very uncomfortable for his friend's rudeness, and Gilbert was already blushing a little more, and he would definitely go crazy. The girl thought that this was a sign that it was time for them to go their separate ways. After all, it would soon get dark and it would be inconvenient to go back. She asked Alice to go home, and she began to admire the beautiful sunset, and in principle, she was very pleased with herself. Everything did not go perfectly, but this was also not bad. As soon as she stepped on the threshold of the house, she was met by the assistant, who had been waiting for her for an hour, or maybe more. She was afraid that the lady had hurt herself and began to ask what had happened to her. The lady is very pleased that they are so concerned about her, but she is not at all ready to discuss it now because she is very tired. The assistant burst into tears because she thinks that in this situation, the girl will not be able to get to the imperial ball, which she was so looking forward to. Mevia doesn't quite understand what this is about because she never said that she was really looking forward to this event. The woman reminded about the pile of dresses. She thought that they were bought specifically for the event, but it turns out that the lady was just relieving stress. She also said that they say that not only the prince but also the emperor himself will be present at the ball, so the event will be very luxurious and at the highest level. So it is very sad that Mavia will miss such a day. In any case, she still promised to do compresses so that there would be at least some chance that everything would heal, and in the meantime, a crow flew to them. Since she knows that the Duke is watching her in this way, she regrets that she did not take the crow with her, so the guy would see how clever she was and would definitely fall in love. And she doesn't know yet that he has already seen everything and fell in love with her much earlier than she thinks. Much earlier. At that moment, a crow flew up to a small chest of drawers and began to gnaw with its beak something that was lying on it. The girl thought she was hungry, but in fact, the bird just wanted to hint that it was time to read one letter. The assistant saw that it was an invitation from the imperial palace and said that it seemed like Raven really wanted her to go there after all. Since even the bird hints that she should prepare for the event, it means that they should work together to make it happen. There is already such chaos in her head that she doesn't want to think about anything. She literally needs a couple of hours to rest, and only then will she be able to discuss this. Then they thought that most likely Sir Gilbert, he would probably try to look as good as possible to impress the ladies. Even if it looked ridiculous, that's probably worth going to see. It's just a pity that the person she really wanted to see won't come. But she said it in the presence of the crow, and the Duke heard it, but he probably didn't understand who she was talking about and could have been upset. In the novel, the great Duke came to the capital only once. Even when his second son was in danger in the capital, he did not come even then. Today, Mavia realized that it would be very difficult to interest the great Duke, and sometimes it seems to her that there is no point in even trying. He is so unattainable in her mind. And she also thought that next time, maybe she should try to hurt herself so badly that Gilbert himself would be forced to call the Grand Duke. After that, she gave Gilbert's sword to her assistant and asked her to get rid of it. But the woman did not understand how one could throw such an expensive thing into the trash. And in the meantime, the next day came. At night she, as she dreamed, was able to rest well, and in the morning she was already full of energy. Her parents invited her to breakfast in advance. She hadn't seen them for so long that she decided it would be wrong to refuse. After all, suddenly they would tell her something interesting, and it wouldn't hurt to find out how they were doing either. She wished them good morning, thanked them for the invitation, and apologized for the fact that for so long she had not had the opportunity to talk to them or even come to breakfast. As usual, father is in a bad mood. He is always like this. Mother is not in the best mood either, but at least she is silent. These are the Marquis and Marchioness of Morgana, Maevia's parents, with whom she has always had a very difficult relationship. And in the meantime, there is so much stuff on the table that it is impossible to resist and talk for a long time. Even though the girl is not very hungry, it is really very difficult to resist. Everything looks so delicious that you want to try everything at once. She even thought about coming to breakfast more often because usually she remembers or finds time to eat only in the evening. This time she chose a seat next to her mother, took a dessert for herself, and didn't think that there would be so many questions for her. The first of them was whether everything was okay with her personal life, as if they already guessed something. Just in case, Mom asked that if something suddenly happened to her, she should not keep it to herself and calmly tell them about her problems. Now she understood for sure that they most likely found out about the case with Gilbert. After such a noise, it is not surprising. The girl answered that she is fine, and for now they have nothing to worry about. In fact, she could listen to them when problems arise, ask for help, but judging by the original novel, the parents were always indifferent to their daughter, and she had to just watch them go. Even on their 6th birthday and the following Christmas, all this time they were too absorbed in their work and forgot about her. It's strange that they suddenly started to take an interest in her affairs. It can't be just like that, and there must be a reason. Even the father asked not to worry too much, said that their family's able to cope even with what their child has caused. Mom started remembering the time when the girl was 7 years old and she lay down on the floor to stop them from leaving on business. She laughed in response because it was impossible to forget, and her face also turned red, but she didn't notice it yet. At that time, half of the family's fortune was at stake. That day they were going to invest in the damned shipping company. And she was very little. At that age, it is very difficult to communicate seriously with parents. So all she could do was make a scandal, and it is a little embarrassing to remember. Meanwhile, Mom says that she is still like a little girl to them, who still needs to be raised and made sure that no one hurts her and nothing bad happens to her. Previously, they didn't even understand how important it is to spend free time with a child, even if there was almost none. When a mother remembers those times, she cries and gets angry at herself. She can't imagine how it was possible to be such cold parents who ruined their daughter's childhood. But they didn't even notice that she didn't have any friends back then. And when they returned from work, she ran to them, begged them to play, and for them, it was something like ordinary whims and they didn't take her seriously. Mom also noticed that even now the girl keeps everything to herself, just like in childhood. And she really likes that they created such a character in her. Maevia thought she could change the fate of the family, but she never believed that she could change the atmosphere in the family. But she was wrong. Today's meeting went much better than she thought. Although when she came here, in the first seconds she felt that everything would go terribly, and she would notice displeased looks on herself. And in the meantime, her parents started talking about going to the ball together. But she immediately said that in fact she wasn't going there. And at that very second, a crow appeared. The lady started to get very angry. She was afraid that her father might want to throw the bird out into the street and started yelling at her to immediately return to her room. After that, the assistant came in and said that he didn't have time to catch the crow because it was rising up too quickly. As she thought, her father asked what kind of bird it was, and she told him with a smile that it was her new pet, who had been living in this house for several days. The girl knows from childhood that her parents have excellent observation skills, and she is alarmed by the fact that they can see what they should, namely that this is not an ordinary bird, but a magical creature, thanks to which they are being watched. The woman said that the girl's tastes had changed a lot, and then suggested that it was because they had been communicating for too long, and during that time a lot had really changed. Meanwhile, The lady moved a little further away from the table to ask the bird what urgent message it wanted to convey to her, because it was unlikely that it would fly in just like that to interfere with her communication with her parents. The little assistant handed her the seal of the imperial house, and the girl began to think where she could get it. Then I realized that most likely she was on the very invitation that they read in the room. Mavia reminded that the invitation said to bring a partner, but she didn't have one. Suddenly, the bird looked at her with such a look, as if hinting that she could be that partner. The girl thinks that, first of all, it is worth thinking about the difference in height, and at the very least, they will not even be able to dance normally. There are many other points, but she only mentioned this one so as not to offend her too much. You never know. Raven began to get very indignant, and then the lady realized that perhaps this was a hint that the very person she would really like to see would come. Meanwhile, he is busy with business. They have just finished preparing for the procession. All that remains is to decide when the departure will take place. The assistant asked how this will happen, when and at what time, and the gentleman had to answer on the fly because he hadn't thought about it before. It seemed to him that it would be better if he went first, and the others followed right behind him. And in the meantime, she became the next day, and today Mavia again decided to talk to her parents, but she came for a short time, even refused tea. To begin with, she thanked them for inviting her to the ball, and her mother replied that there was no need to thank them for that. After all, they were her parents. Then their daughter asked if she could allow herself to act childishly again, and her father said that if it was about the old contract, then they would sort it out themselves. He understands that she doesn't like it, but she suddenly said that it's the other way around. She would just like to fulfill the terms of the agreement. And then the most interesting thing began. The girl says that since she is not interested in Gilbert, there is still someone in that house who could become her husband. But the parents immediately came up with the idea of staying in the family for the children and were even worried about what she came up with. Mavia reminded that there is another single man there who is exactly what interests her. The parents are completely perplexed. They are trying to convince themselves that they misheard it, because if their daughter is saying it seriously, it is already too much. She explained that she was talking about Duke Kalakis, who was at least twice her age, if not more. Mom already thought that if they understood her correctly, it meant only one thing. Their daughter had gone crazy. The woman reacted to this more or less calmly. But her husband is about to go crazy that his young daughter could be with that man. He won't survive if rumors about this appear and his reputation goes down the drain. While Dad made it clear what he thought about it, Mom remained silent, as if she wouldn't even try to dissuade her. She simply asked if she had agreed with the Duke to go with him to the event. Maevia replied that she had not yet, but she thought he would definitely come to the ball, and then they would discuss everything with him. In fact, the woman just wanted to listen to her daughter until the end, and she herself is much more serious about solving this problem than the father. The man just got angry, and she wants to eliminate the problem at the root. Under the pretext of a family trip, she suggested going somewhere. This place is on a neighboring continent. The girl began to justify herself by saying that her chosen one looks much younger than his age, and that she would be better off with him than with any other guy. This was unconvincing. Mom doesn't want to hear anything about her dating the Duke, so she'll do everything to make sure they don't even cross paths. And she also asked her to pack all her things. The next day came. Somehow she managed to persuade her parents not to rush into this trip, and now she is already getting ready for the event from the very morning. They helped her choose shoes, a dress, jewelry. Everything was chosen with special care so that in the end, it would be a perfect picture. The girl hadn't seen herself in such a chic outfit for a long time. She even wanted to go to the mirror every day and see such beauty. From the very beginning of the day, Maevia is so happy, as if she is sure that something good will happen today. The assistant says that for someone who didn't want to go to the event, the lady is too pleased, as if she knows something. And the maid also advises to quickly explain to the parents that they were discussing two different people. The parents thought for one, but in fact their daughter is waiting for a completely different person who is much younger, more beautiful, and more suitable for her. Rumors have already spread throughout the mansion, and tomorrow the whole city will be talking about it. The assistant advises to do something about it, although she understands that it is not her business. There is another very dubious point. Maevia never saw the one who was watching her through the crow. She only heard about him, but she has no idea what he looks like. It will be very offensive if he is much older than her. In that case, she will have to go to another continent. After that, they remembered about Raven. No one had seen the crow since the morning, and this once again proves that she is probably already with her master, preparing for the event with him. The girl really wants to believe that the crow ran away for this very reason and feels her heart beating very hard. Time passed very slowly. Finally, this moment came, and here in the imperial ballroom. Despite the bad weather, everything had already begun. As the lady thought, there are already too many rumors about her, and completely different ones, both for Gilbert and for his father, but no one knows yet that in fact she is interested in someone else, and she simply misled everyone. Usually people come here to have fun, communicate, relax, but today everyone really wants to see one couple that doesn't give them peace. Depending on who Manhwa communicates with today, it will be possible to understand who she will soon marry. There are those here who think it is wrong to pry into someone else's personal life, but even they can hardly restrain themselves from gossiping. 3 words are constantly heard in the crowd: Manhwa, chosen one, and of course, wedding, which is why the girl decided to walk a little later than everyone else in order to notice as little of these glances as possible. At some point, she very calmly and leisurely enters the hall, does not turn around to look at anyone, behaves very confidently. She takes a glass of drink, thanks the waiter, and calmly sits down on the sofa so as not to stand in heels, because the ball will not end soon, and she will still have time to stand. It looks so beautiful that everyone admires her manners. People remembered their posture to be at least a little like this beauty. There were some envious people, even though the girl had a gorgeous dress. Some said that it was awful, and how could she even come in it? She has already gotten used to the atmosphere, enjoyed the wine and classical music. All that remains is to wait for that very person. She is ready to stay here until the very end, just to see him for 1 second, or even better, to talk. Manhwa remembers very well when the crow spat out the seal of the imperial palace and wondered if it was really not a hint that he would come, and she tried so hard in vain. The girl was lost in her thoughts and didn't even notice how one of her acquaintances approached her. This was the same Monica with whom they had recently chosen dresses for Charlie. She says that she is very glad to see her, although she usually never says this, but still gave her a compliment because Manhwa's outfit is really luxurious. The girl also said that she was very glad to see her. She just wouldn't mind chatting while she waited for the Duke. Monica, as usual in her style, she began to ask who Manhwa was waiting for. Was it that old man? And she smiled a little, as if hinting that the girl could not choose someone better and younger for herself. The lady didn't react to this at all. She would just watch later how everyone would see her with the cutest guy in the room. Out of the blue, Monica became indignant that she had sent her letters, but Manhwa had not read a single one and had not responded to her. The girl doesn't understand what she's talking about. She then remembered that her assistant actually told her something like that, but then she forgot about it. And the letter said the following: "How can you leave a person so impolitely? Because of you, I didn't even have time to choose a dress for the ball. I'll give you another chance. I'll forgive you if you help me choose a dress for my birthday." Monica waited for an answer every day. She really wanted to go shopping with her, because later in the store, she realized that the girl really had good taste. But she doesn't even know what to answer to that, although it's possible that she didn't answer on purpose to avenge Charlie's friend. Judging by her look, that's how it was. But of course, she will never admit it. She doesn't care what Monica wears. The main thing is that she took care of herself and her friend. Then she got up from the couch, pretended to be very sorry and apologized for that situation, and then explained that she had been having so many disturbing events lately that it seemed she simply hadn't noticed her letter, which she regretted very much. Manhwa knows very well how much Monica doesn't like this. She came very close to her, took her hand and apologized, looking straight into her eyes. The girl immediately pushed her away. She gave advice: just don't do anything for which you will have to apologize later. And she also said that she was not going to give in to these compliments about beauty, although Manhwa had just said nothing of the sort to her. Monica calmed down and remembered that she had originally come to discuss the matter and did not want to waste time on such empty talk. The girl replied that it would probably be better to discuss business matters with her parents, because she had nothing to do with it, to which Monica replied that it concerned the territory they owned. She means the same rock quarry they bought 10 years ago, where monsters swarm. It turns out that Monica has been supporting a researcher studying these monsters for a very long time and would like to buy this land. Mevia immediately said that it was probably impossible. It was unlikely that her parents would want to give up that territory. Suddenly, they would need it someday. And if they sold it now, they wouldn't be able to get it back, even for a huge sum of money, as usually happens. While they were talking, the fact was already announced that Mr. Gilbert Calicus, the one Mavia least wanted to see, was entering the hall. The girl hoped it would be another man, but unfortunately it wasn't him as usual. Some ladies were happy to see him, but Mavia wasn't one of them. He looks at everyone around him with his special gaze. He is clearly looking for a specific person, and it is obvious who he needs. But the girl definitely didn't expect one thing. They hadn't even finished talking with Monica about that territory before she started getting distracted by that guy. And at some point she started to leave, and only at the very last moment remembered that it wouldn't hurt to say something. She said that she would step away for a while, and it was already clear who she was heading to, and the lady didn't even know how to react to this. Maybe it was good that she went to him, so she would at least distract him a little and gain time so that she could go somewhere. The girl hasn't seen Monica so embarrassed for a long time. It's visible even from a great distance. She smiles and is embarrassed in front of Gilbert, as if she was waiting for this meeting as much as Mevia was with that guy. The girl thought that they might be acquainted. Although she doesn't understand when they managed to cross paths, she was sure that it was impossible, and now she is completely perplexed. It seemed to her that Monica was probably up to something. She couldn't just start communicating with some person out of the blue, knowing what problems he had in his relationship with Mavia. Even though she really didn't want it, I had to go up to them, intervene in the conversation and take her away from this man. She tries to pretend as if she doesn't notice him, but he's still happy to see her, and he looks at her so intently that it's unbearable. Naturally, everyone immediately turned to the side, began to eavesdrop, and complete silence fell in the hall. He asked very loudly in front of everyone if she wasn't happy to see him. After all, he was her future husband, but these words almost made her sick. She realized that a little more, and he would simply drive her crazy. Maevia hints to Monica that they should leave, but the girl seems to be deliberately ignoring her, as if this is part of her plan. And the most interesting part hasn't started yet. One of them actually has a plan, and it starts right now, right here, right now. Knowing that she would react very badly to this and would not want him to do this, the guy gets down on one knee, and according to the agreement of the ancestors, he respectfully asks her to marry him, probably. He is sure that it will be very difficult for her to refuse a public proposal, and she will not be able to disgrace him so thoughtlessly. This is real manipulation. He thinks that even if she refuses, she will definitely not marry the groom's father. He has no doubt that she has no other choice, and now she will agree, and also see such a gorgeous ring that no girl can refuse. Everything was so beautiful and easy, and she just goes and pours a bottle of wine on him, so he doesn't think that it's so easy to embarrass her. She doesn't care so much about his reputation that this day will forever remain a disgrace for him. If he allows himself to do so, he deserves to get what he deserves. In her opinion, any normal and adequate person would never propose, manipulating and knowing that the girl does not want to be with him. Moreover, she has already told him this several times straight to his face. And in the meantime, the Duke came to one man without warning, and he immediately thought that he had done something wrong. The guy calmed him down and explained that he had simply responded to an invitation. He was very interested to see what the current king was like, and judging by everything, not much time had passed. While they are talking, the ball is not boring at all. The girl warned that if he ignores her refusal again, next time she will come up with something more interesting, after which he will be afraid to even approach her, and she will not look at who he is, a sword master or an ordinary guy who does not understand what a word is. No. People wanted to see a show, they got it. Now it's clear to everyone that it's a one-sided offer and their feelings are not mutual. Some felt sorry for Gilbert. Some admired Lady Mavia's courage, and some tried to ignore these squabbles. Now the guy doesn't even know what's better, to calmly leave the event or to disgrace her in return, but this way he will only disgrace himself. The guy tries to smile so that no one can see how offended he is. After all, he needs to maintain his reputation, which is already dubious. Maevia is very pleased with how she answered him. After all, he should have chosen better who to pester. The Lavan Empire, although it has a huge territory, but due to the failure of maritime trade, the king's power was shaken. After this, power passed to three rich families that everyone knows. Duri Marquise Eno, Recam Elaine, Marquisate of Morgus, and the Morgan Marquisate, in Unwanted. Among them, the Marquisate of Morgan was a family known for its outstanding qualities. This also meant that in case of conflict, the likelihood of blame lay on the opposite side. The only thing the girl was afraid of was that her parents would react badly to this act. But surprisingly, when she looked at them, she saw happy faces, especially her father, who was clearly proud of her. Her mother said that if she needed their help, she could contact them. And in the meantime, Baron Cullen comes to her. He understands her feelings, but asks her to think about Gilbert's reputation, not even imagining how she doesn't care about it. Always has and always will. At that moment, she decided to explain something to him because she sees that the guy doesn't understand something, that this rope he is holding on to now will not save him, and also asked him to look at the situation from the outside and to get up wisely without trying to please anyone, because usually this is a very thankless task. In the end, he still didn't stay and couldn't leave silently. He wanted to say his last words after all. It was obvious that he definitely didn't plan to stay here until the end. He says that in the north, as here, there is nothing sane, that he is very disappointed in her and regretted that he proposed to a girl like her who did not deserve it. She only laughed in response and then reminded him that she really hoped that he would say these words for the last time and would not make the same mistake again by proposing to her again in a few days. She really wants to believe that he learned his lesson because every time she turned him down, he said such nasty things, and now the same thing is happening. She said this on purpose so that everyone would hear and know that he was just playing a game and trying to win the main prize no matter what. And in the meantime, some man came up. He apologized for interfering in their conversation and then explained that she just wanted to convey that His Majesty asked to meet her in person. But this is already interesting. This person came at the right time. She just said and did everything she wanted, and now she is absolutely free. This assistant is very sorry that he distracted her or maybe came to me on time. But she reassured him it is still his job and it is not his fault that everything coincided like that. In the end, he asked her to follow him. It was very rainy outside, but she was ready to endure it. After all, the meeting was very long awaited, and for this, she would easily walk in the rain. This time, the rain is pouring harder than in the rainy season, so it is going to stop, although it is not so important now. And then she starts to feel some strange atmosphere, as if something is happening, or maybe it's just because of excitement. Everything around is so gloomy, she feels uneasy, or maybe it's just because of the sudden change of scenery and against the backdrop of a bright ball. Everything seems too dark and gloomy. Only now did she notice that His Majesty's assistant was completely unkempt, and his pale face made her very wary. At that moment, she decided to ask why His Majesty had called her to him, and at such a time, to which the guy replied that unfortunately he could only tell her that she had brought all this on herself. Maevia didn't quite understand what it meant, what she had done so special that she was called at such a time, and why it couldn't be done tomorrow. She finds such urgency suspicious, and the weather also brings on unpleasant thoughts that confuse her. At some point, she heard a very familiar voice but did not understand who it could be, and also saw two silhouettes in the distance. Out of the blue, she started running in the opposite direction and promised that she would be back soon, without explaining anything. The assistant was so tired that he didn't try to catch up with her, and in the meantime, she had only one thought in her mind, that now she was finished. The scariest thing is to realize that something bad is going to happen and not know what exactly. She can't even prepare for it properly. And in the meantime, Gilbert and Monica came out into the street. Apparently, Maevia saw them a couple of minutes ago. Monica tells the guy that she understands how hurt he was to go through all this and gives him advice not to run after those who don't deserve it. She started to tell that the girl had always been like that she must have hit her head when she was a child, which meant that she had started to turn him against her. although maybe it was for the best. She wipes the wine off his face very carefully, although it doesn't help, but she tries to show that she wants to help him. At that moment, he had only one question for her. Why was she doing this to him, since they didn't really know each other, and she didn't owe him anything? Gilbert could have been grateful that she was the only one on his side, but as usual, he looks for a catch in everything and doesn't trust people. Monica told him that everything was very simple. She just understood him very well, and also what she confessed. She said that in fact, she doesn't like Manhwa either, but she did it at the most inopportune moment, when the girl was right behind her. Now it's clear where she ran to, but it's not clear why. Manhwa doesn't say anything on purpose. She stands silently behind her and listens. And at that moment, Monica says that she always wanted the girl to always have things worse than hers. There were even times when she wished her misfortune. She thinks whether to ignore all this or not. After all, if she leaves, it will no longer be an inappropriate relationship. Perhaps they will live happily as a harmonious couple, and so the guy will stop pestering. In the end, the girl couldn't hold back. She hinted that they weren't alone here, and at that moment, you just had to see Monica's face. She had never been in a more awkward situation in her life, although perhaps she didn't care anymore. Since she had almost won Gilbert over, instead of figuring out who said what, the girl just wanted to give her the first and last piece of advice. Namely, try to stay away from this person, and better yet, never meet him again. She doesn't care what she said about her. She's just acting according to her conscience and wants to protect another girl from someone like him. Meanwhile, Monica couldn't even imagine that she would see him for the first time in real life. The guy literally lost his temper and started attacking the girl. She could never have imagined that he was so hot-tempered, and she doesn't like that. She had a bad experience, after which she prefers calmer guys. Manhwa also didn't think that everything would turn out like this. Unlike how he behaved in the hall, now he is much bolder, and maybe everything is even for the better. He will literally show by his own example that it is really better not to mess with him and what happens when he is angered by a girl, especially one with whom he does not even have a relationship to allow himself to do such a thing. It all happened so quickly that Manhwa didn't even have time to react. But another second, and he would have simply strangled her. At the very last moment, when she already understood that it was too late to resist, a miracle happened. A man appeared who was able to protect her. The boy's father grabs him by the hand. The man addresses him as his son, but at that moment Manhwa is completely confused. Firstly, all this time she thought that his father was elderly and that the Duke and his father were two different people. But as it turned out, the one she was waiting for and the one she told her parents about were one and the same person. This nice guy is far from being like this man's father, and from that moment on, the girl has a lot of questions. It turns out that she didn't deceive anyone. She said that she wanted to meet Gilbert's father, not knowing that the one she kept silent about is him. His descriptions throughout the story were one weirder than the other. He was strong enough to easily subdue ferocious monsters, but he hardly ever left his chambers so that very few people saw him, and those who did see him at least once could not say a word. Over his uniform, he exuded a decadent aura, and in the long corners of the eyes, as if in the strokes of the devil's brush, there was hidden an extraordinary seductiveness. The girl looks at him and can't believe what she sees with her own eyes. She doesn't believe that this is possible, at least because of his appearance. He looks even younger than his son. Gilbert begs to let go of his hand and justifies himself by saying that this is some kind of misunderstanding and that he misunderstood. He says that this whole thing was set up by this girl and that it is her hands that need to be grabbed, but definitely not his. The boy is offended that his father is so ruthless only towards him and didn't even listen to him. And in the meantime, when everyone has already left, Manhwa is still trying to understand what is happening. She feels very awkward looking at him because she knows that he has been watching her all this time, and he doesn't know that she knows it. She also really wants to admire him for at least a few minutes, but he doesn't take his eyes off her for a second. She had already forgotten that it wouldn't hurt to get to know him or talk to him, but in the end he did it first. The Duke asked why she had rejected Gilbert's offer, but it sounded as if he was unhappy about it. He says that his son seemed like a suitable candidate for her husband, and almost no one doubted that they would get married. But when he asked her why she was going to marry someone like him, she immediately wanted to sink into the ground because she didn't expect such a question from him. And the guy insists that she explain it, as if he wants to hear that she likes him. In fact, it's very simple. She would like to marry him because she already knows the future that awaits her if she is not with him. In the original story, immediately after the wedding, Gilbert sent Maevia to the north, and 6 months later, he called her back to the capital with unclean intentions. The naive girl was just happy then. I don't know what terrible fate awaits her, and that it would have been better to stay there. According to the plot, she could listen to his father, who said that she doesn't have to go anywhere, and if she wants, she can stay for the rest of her life. Then he was the only one who warned her, and if the girl only knew that this was her chance for a happy life, she would never have listened to Gilbert. And even when she was already locked up, the guy still came to her and extended a helping hand until the very end. Even though the girl was unable to grab his hand, she is still interested in knowing why he wanted to help her so much. One thing she knows for sure, if Maevia had taken his hand then, such a terrible end would not have awaited her. In the end, she didn't want to talk for too long. To drag out time, she told him as it is, how she feels, that she would like to get to know him better and even offered to dance one dance. He says he didn't think anyone would want to dance in such weather, especially after what had just happened. She answered him that with such a man you want to dance even in the rain, and even if everyone was looking at them. She intends to attract his attention, to make a good impression, and so that when they part he will think well of her and perhaps even want to meet again. And when she asked him if he wanted to dance, he very quickly, as if without thinking, answered that he didn't. She could have been upset, but she took matters into her own hands and thought that maybe he just didn't know how to dance. Or if he is shy, then they can go to some other place. But he still refuses and asks not to insist. She asked him directly what the problem was. Was it really so bad that a couple of minutes of dancing would be unpleasant for him? He responded to this by saying that he was simply too tired. And moreover, he never liked to dance, which is why he doesn't know how. He had 3 reasons to refuse. And he also asked if he could say goodbye to her and go home peacefully. She could still tolerate this. But when he said that further communication by letters would also be tiring for him, so he suggests that they do not even meet. This man turned out to be much more picky than she thought. Even she is not as complicated as he is. Maevia has been waiting for this moment for so long that she is not going to let him go so easily. She asked if it would be a shame to leave without enjoying the ball. And he says that he is an introvert and all this is not interesting for him. After that, he turned around, didn't even say goodbye and started to go home. After that, no girl would have humiliated herself and tried to restore. Maevia is not one to give up easily. She even allowed herself to grab him by the clothes and asked him to stop again. Because she really wants to dance with him and won't calm down until it happens. Even if it's a little cheeky on her part, she looked at him with a very sweet look and said that she doesn't have a partner. And if he leaves now, she will be very upset and will never come to such events again. He began to think what to answer to this. The girl felt that he was inclined to agree, but she did not show it, so as not to rejoice prematurely. Only at the very last second, her smile was from ear to ear, as if her dream was about to come true. And finally, his gaze softened a little. She felt that everything worked out and she was holding back very much from hugging him with all her might. He asks her if one dance is enough for her because she can't count on anything more. She smiles and answers that, of course, that will be enough. The girl has already forgotten that it is raining outside, that she is cold. He is in front of her, and this is the most important thing now. He is clearly not in the mood for her, the way she would like, but this is not a problem. She will definitely fix it. It is very difficult to control yourself in front of such a man. His strength and greatness can be felt from a distance, and she really likes it. And when he took her hand, she almost trembled with happiness. Maevia can't believe her eyes. She did something impossible, and she also thinks that now he will say that it was a joke, and she can't hope that he will dance with her. She thought that he agreed to dance right there, on the street, on the spot, but he suggested going into the hall. And this is even better than she planned, so everyone will see them and they will definitely be envious. All the couples are already dancing. They don't even guess who will appear here now and with whom. Maevia feels like the happiest person in the world. Her emotions and feelings inside are simply impossible to convey in words. She is very pleased with herself. For her, this is something like a dream come true. Although perhaps this is true, She has been waiting for this moment for too long and too much. The girl warned him in advance that the floor here is very slippery and he needs to be careful. She knows that he rarely attends such events, so she thought that such information would definitely not be superfluous. Now he is much more pleasant to talk to. He even admitted that he feels very awkward, and it seems to him that now everyone will start laughing at him. He keeps turning around, worried that he looks ridiculous, and she told him that probably everyone around him feels the same way. And there's no need to worry about it. After all, everyone is focused on themselves right now. At some point, so many people started paying attention to them so abruptly that she even felt it, even though she had her back to them. There were so many looks that even though everything had worked out in the best possible way, she still felt a little nervous. Two thoughts are mixed in her head. Let everyone watch and envy, and also that if something goes wrong now and someone dares to ruin such a great moment, she will hate the whole world. I had to focus on my partner with all my might, not looking around, although it was almost unbearable and impossible. After that, she had even more desire to make sure that she left this event with a smile and not in tears. Meanwhile, people are already discussing how Mavia can dance with this guy after she refused Gilbert's proposal. At this point, the guy even started to help her. He watches people and everyone who looks in their direction. He starts to scare with his gaze and energy. Some even started running to the other side of the hall so as not to even be near him. But still, some brave souls did not even move from their place. Although the girl doesn't notice it, she felt that she felt better morally and much better very quickly. She really started enjoying the moment. After all, the main thing now is to have fun, and if she thinks about others, she will regret it later. After all, they don't deserve her attention. These people can only envy, so let them do that, and she will dance and smile next to a handsome guy as she wanted it. At some point, he started moving so well and trying to accompany her that she couldn't even believe her eyes. Just now, he felt terribly awkward, complained that he couldn't do anything, and now he was doing everything better than her. She even felt offended that she had studied this for a long time, and in a couple of minutes, he turned into a wonderful dancer. She told him about it, and he was glad that now his movements don't look funny. It even seemed to her that perhaps he himself did not know this, but was born with such talent. He just discovered it only now. And in the meantime, they look so beautiful and harmonious from the outside that even those who at the very beginning looked at them with an envious look, now these people admire and want to look the same. Mavia lights up the whole room with her smile and now asks him if he regrets agreeing to dance with her. Not only did he make her happy, but he also showed everyone what he is capable of. If he looks around right now, he will see how people are crazy about his movements and how they look together. He immediately felt awkward after these words. He even froze in one place on purpose so as not to turn around and look at people. During all this time that he was talking to her, the guy noticed that she was not only not afraid of him, but also openly expressed sympathy. Usually girls who want to meet him leave him alone after the first refusal, but she was so persistent, and only now he felt that he liked it. Because if he had gone home then, he would have missed such a wonderful opportunity and would not have revealed his talent. And he also told her that he doesn't know yet what she's up to and what she wants from him, but for now he'll give in to her prank because she knows what it is about her that hooks him so much. Meanwhile, the event came to an end. They said goodbye very quickly and she ran home to realize what had happened today. To begin with, the girl asked to draw a warm bath for her. She was a little cold today and it would definitely not hurt to warm up, especially since while she was in this room, no one would disturb her. And she also feels very awkward about what he told her in the last minutes of their meeting. It was very unexpected and she still doesn't know how to understand it. When he said that he was going to give in and play along with what she had planned, she answered him that really, even if she planned to marry him, he would make her his wife. Then she would eagerly wait for his answer and carefully watch his reaction. He then said that as far as marriage was concerned, he proposed to discuss the matter some other day. But at that time, the lady did not realize with what seriousness he said it. Her consciousness was simply in a fog at the time. It was enough for her that she had persuaded him to dance, that he had smiled at her, and for some reason she had missed everything else. She had not noticed how she had asked him these strange questions. Now she is a little angry with herself that she ruined such a wonderful moment. She could have said nothing like that, and everything would have been better, although that is not a fact. If you look at the situation from the outside, they had a normal conversation, danced, said goodbye calmly, and he didn't look like he didn't like anything. It was the other way around. Mevia didn't notice how she thought about it every free second, and also how she got out of the water and went to bed. Before going to bed, she only thought that she would sleep for at least 20 hours, and only then would she return to this matter and think about what to do next. In the end, she didn't get to sleep as much as she planned. It was just starting to get light outside, and a guest had already arrived. The assistant came and said that a person with whom she had an unfinished conversation was waiting for her in the living room. She couldn't even imagine that Duke Calacus would come. They hadn't agreed on this, and she couldn't imagine what could be so urgent that he would wake her up early in the morning. After yesterday, she literally begged him to give her 1 minute of his precious time. Now she allows herself to say that it would be better if he came a little later. Maybe she just didn't wake up and doesn't understand what she's saying. Although maybe she can be understood too. She is so tired that she hardly controls what she says to the one she recently ran after. The guy didn't respond to this at all, and then asked to call him Edith. This is his name, which few people know, but for some reason he allows her to call him that. She told him that she didn't know how right it would be, so in the near future she would address him in different ways as it would work out. After that, he started to smile and asked her to watch his hands carefully, and she began to think that this was definitely some kind of dream. He snaps his fingers and a huge magic circle appears in the air, and she doesn't understand what it is and why he's doing it. The girl was even a little scared. She had no idea what he was trying to achieve with this, because so far he had only succeeded in scaring her. And she got so nervous that she started screaming loudly and several tears rolled down her face. At some point, the magic circle began to disappear, and in its place some documents appeared, which began to fall right into her hands so slowly that she had time to catch them. She only has an idea of what it might be, but in order not to rejoice prematurely, she first read everything that was written there. And he also told her that even if she really wanted to sleep, she still needed to look at the details of the marriage. That is, she has in her hands a real marriage certificate from the contract. There is even an imperial seal. She can't believe that he agreed so quickly to her proposal yesterday. Although it's hard to call it a proposal, it was just a question, and he took it too literally. Well, that's great. The guy also said a strange phrase that if this is enough to join her game, then he is ready to do it. After he showed her these documents, he simply began to remain silent and watch how she reacted to it. He thought that she would be jumping for joy, smiling, but she behaves exactly the same as he does, as if there is nothing special about it for her. The girl only promised that she would live happily ever after with him, but only until she felt that she was living worse in the relationship than without it. And now he asked her if she really wants to spend the rest of her life with a man she met only yesterday, to which she replied that there are many effective marriages that later become very successful, in which case he only has to warn her that they may have some problems with having children, and all because of his body. She suggested to talk about it later because she has no intention of having many children, especially in the coming years. Then he asked her to ask at least some questions so that she could get to know him better. And then he would ask her some questions. The first thing she asked was how old he was. In normal life, in normal relationships, this is a standard question, but now it interests her the most because it is the biggest mystery that everyone wants to solve. The Duke answered that he once met the First Lord of Calacus, even before he became the Great Duke, when he was just a nobody, wandering through dangerous places with a sad, well, cute face. She answered him that she wouldn't even be surprised if she found out that he already had grandchildren or great-grandchildren, it turns out. But he never had children and still has no one. Naturally, she immediately became interested in finding out whether he had relationships or mistresses. He said that they had never had anything like that, and that's why she doesn't believe it, because how is it possible to be alone for so many years and not want to meet anyone? Especially since there are a lot of beautiful girls around him. Suddenly, he interrupted her and asked if she wasn't interested in how he was still alive. It seemed to him that finding out about this was much more interesting than what concerns his personal life. The Duke asked if she understood what it meant that he had met the very first Lord of Calacus, because that was the answer to that question. She very quickly replied that she understood everything perfectly well, and yet She was much more interested in his personal life, and she would ask about the secret of his terribly long life when she got older. Although if he wanted to tell her how to stay forever young, she wouldn't mind listening to that either. And also, if he ever wants to share the secret of his eternal life, she will definitely write it down so that she can later share it with her mom and dad. The guy promised that he would tell her about it someday, and then asked if there was anything else she wanted to know about him. She replied that all the questions were over. There was only one condition, but for some reason this word made him laugh. She explained that she was going to live in lands that were completely foreign to her, with only one maid she could trust, no parents, no friends, no one around, and those lands were clearly colder and harsher than the area here. And there is also a huge chance of running into people who hate her, or even worse, some monsters. He asked for fewer words, wants to understand what these conditions are that she is desperately worried about, because depending on what they are, maybe he will quickly agree. Before saying this, she laughed a little, because she herself would never agree to this in his place. Namely, her bruise would cost 1,000,000 coins. If she has any kind of injury, it will cost money, for example. A burn of 50 million coins, fractures from 100 to 200, and this is far from the entire list. This is such a guarantee that everything will be safe for her there, and he will personally make sure that she does not receive a penny in this way, because she will have to pay from her own wallet. He felt very upset that she had such an opinion about his lands, and he also reacted as if it was not so at all. Mevia understands perfectly well how this sounds, but she hasn't come up with anything else yet, especially since if he thinks that he will be safe, then he shouldn't be embarrassed by such conditions. She reminded that she is not such an ordinary Grand Duchess. She will take the place that has remained vacant for too long, and someone might not like the unplanned arrival of a new government. She's not going to take this lightly. She's just asking to think of it as insurance. She's one of those who prepares for all possible outcomes of a situation and doesn't see anything strange about it. In fact, she deceived him a little now. After all, the real reason why she does this is a little different. Gilbert Kalakis. This villain is also heading north, and she knows it very well. So when she gets there, she will be alone, while the guy will have a pack of faithful dogs around him. Even if she plays very cruelly, it does not guarantee her victory. At least if someone hits her, she will get at least some compensation. And also, it is unlikely that the guy will harm his father's wife, no matter how badly he treats her. After all, because of this, the relationship of each of them may suffer. Since she is so scared, the Duke offers to take someone else with her. He will even allow her to take every last soldier from their family's personal army if necessary. She asked why she should waste her energy if she already had an incredible husband who was much stronger than everyone else, to which he replied that it didn't seem like she trusted her husband, and she reminded him that it was only the second meeting, which meant nothing. Now that he knew her a little better, he said that she seemed braver to him before, but now she seemed more like a scared little rabbit. The girl wasn't upset. She smiled and said that the rabbit just suits her image perfectly, and it sounds good too. They were already ready to sign everything that was needed when suddenly she stood up from her seat and began to behave strangely. It was as if she felt that he was already in her trap. There was nothing more to be afraid of, and she could behave as freely as possible. He doesn't understand what's going on, and he doesn't even ask what happened to her. She was one just now, and now she's different. The girl is sneaking up on him on the table. It looks like she's hinting at something. The main thing is that with such behavior, she doesn't spoil anything now, and the contract is still signed. She might regret it very much at any moment, but in the meantime, she tells him that there is a tint of purple in his eyes, just like a sparkling purple star in the depths of the dark blue ocean. He listened to it for a couple of minutes, and then he couldn't hold back, and asked what she was saying, what was happening to her. It was as if she was high on some kind of drink, that she didn't seem like herself anymore. In the end, in order not to waste time on this, he calmly took a pen and began to sign the document, having made sure in advance that she had no other conditions. She said that she couldn't think of anything else, so he accepted everything he heard and very quickly put his signature. Then he handed the document to her, said that now it was her turn, and really hoped that this would be the end of it. He himself is already tired of sitting here. He wants to hope that she has finally calmed down and there will be no more such performances, at least for today. At one point, she was talking about how it would be interesting to know what kind of people they were who had signed the contract so that they would now sign it. The Duke asked if she wanted him to show her the place where their bodies were. She smiled, said that it sounded tempting, but perhaps she had to refuse because something told her that he could really do it, and at first she took it as a joke. Edis congratulated her on the fact that she was now the Grand Duchess of Calacas and could boldly introduce herself to people by that name. As the guy said, she became the Grand Duchess. But then why does it seem to her that she did not receive the title of Grand Duchess, but rather became part of the Demon King's army? For now, she tried not to think about it. She was happy with the fact that he was very handsome, especially since if she didn't like something, there would always be the option to break up. Probably. Now, she is interested in when they will return to the estate. After all, it is necessary to arrange a new room, move things, and this is the smallest part of what needs to be done. He was ready for this question, so he offered to do it anytime she wanted. And of course, she hinted that she would like to go right now. Then she laughed and explained that it was a joke. After all, before leaving, she needed to say goodbye to her parents and talk to them. It seems to him that there are other people who want to say goodbye to her. Besides her parents, Mavia did not understand who they were talking about, and suddenly there was a knock on the door. Assistant Sarah came to them. The lady allowed her to enter, and as expected, the girl apologized for interrupting their conversation. But a letter arrived from Lady Monica, and she thought that she should immediately inform her about it. The girl was surprised that the letter arrived at such a time, and thought that perhaps it was because of what happened that day when Gilbert attacked her. More interested in Gilbert than the Grand Duke. And that's a fact. It must be interesting. Why does she hate Gilbert so much that she calls him bad names? Written, I may have been a little rude last night, but considering the risk I took to protect the lady, I feel I deserve to know what happened. Also, I would like to personally invite you to my ball at your convenience. Of course, even if a natural disaster happens, I am sure that Lady Mevia will attend my birthday. The Duke asked if it was urgent, to which she replied that no. Monica just wanted to give her an invitation to her birthday. Mavia decided to answer her later because it was not so urgent to deal with it right now, at such a time. And then the assistant hinted that perhaps the lady should hurry because the man who brought this letter said that Lady Monica set out on her journey following the letter, which means that she will be visiting very soon, perhaps even in a few hours. It's strange that if she was going to come anyway, then why was it necessary to ask for a convenient time for the meeting? The Duke even suggested going to a place where she could hide, to which she replied that if it was the Grand Duke's estate, she would probably refuse, since she would not want to meet his eldest son. He even promised to take care of it if that's the only problem why she doesn't want to go there. The girl smiled. She said no. It's okay, because if he intends to take care of it, she doubts that this place will remain on Earth later. He didn't like that she didn't give him the opportunity to take care of her. After all, they are already husband and wife. At least they have a signed agreement about it. In the end, she suggested continuing this conversation in the living room because it seemed that he was not her only guest today and she needed to prepare for this. He immediately agreed, suggested going there right now, and also looked at her cute sleepwear and became interested in what her everyday clothes looked like. At that moment, she looks in the mirror and realizes that all this time she looked in a way that she shouldn't have looked in front of her future husband. She is surprised that he didn't leave her at all and sign that document. She really didn't notice how she was in her sleepwear all this time, and she hadn't even combed her hair yet. And overall, she felt like her appearance was far from acceptable. I had to ask Sarah to help her with her clothes immediately, because if Monica saw her like this, Mavia would definitely get depressed. While the guy had a few minutes to wait for her, he thought that he had never seen anyone as beautiful as his wife in his life. Even in this form, he liked her so much that he saw nobility in all the most beautiful things in her. And in the meantime, when she had already gotten ready, got dressed, she began to explain that it was some kind of misunderstanding, and she was very unhappy with the way he saw her. She was so ashamed in front of him that she wanted to turn back time and discuss everything again. She was so unhappy with herself. Although he didn't say a word to her about anyone being wrong, on the contrary, he even admired her. In her mind, everything was exactly the opposite. While she is nervous and trying to say something, he suggests just pretending as if it didn't happen. especially since for him personally there is no problem with this. For him, she is beautiful in any form. And in the meantime, they brought coffee for them. It will help to cheer them up a little, especially after that situation when she was very nervous. She took the first sip and thought that it was not what she ordered. The taste was strange, and she couldn't finish it normally. When the guy asked what was wrong, she pretended like everything was fine, but he immediately understood everything and had an idea. He took the cup from her, got up from the sofa and started walking somewhere without explaining anything. Only then said that it was not nice to lie from the first day of their marriage. The guy asked her to wait for him for a couple of minutes. It won't take much time, but he'll be back and hopes she'll like it. Mevia has no idea what he's up to. It looks like he wants to remake the drink or do something she's never tried before. He's already in the kitchen, got all the necessary ingredients, started chopping something, opening something, mixing, and his wife is already peeping at him. She couldn't resist following him, slightly opening the door and trying to be as unnoticeable as possible, at least as much as possible, because she doesn't think he'll be too upset when he finds out that she saw everything. He put on a special apron to avoid getting dirty, tied it tightly and got down to business. This already looks very intriguing. First, he started to cut the chocolate into small pieces. As a result, he got a big bowl of chopped chocolate. Next to the same bowl, there were fresh strawberries, and her girlfriend really loves strawberries. Then he started pouring water into the coffee machine. Probably wants to make a special coffee that won't be bitter and that she's never tried before. So he got an incredible strawberry latte. It looks absolutely amazing. And he also decorated it with berries and teddy bear cookies, as if he knew that she even had such a favorite toy. When the girl realized that he was almost finishing, she quickly returned to the table and waited for him for literally a couple of seconds. He brought her this drink, wished her a bon appetit, and she doesn't even know how to react to this. She has never seen anything more beautiful. This is a real work of art and, of course, much better than what her assistant brought her. He believes that she will appreciate his efforts. He once loved to make such drinks for himself and still remembers several recipes. She says that if he gives her such surprises every morning, he will become the best husband. Meanwhile, Mevia tasted it and said it was the most delicious drink she had ever tasted in her life. He made it even better than the imperial cooks in her estate. She loves every ingredient he added here and doesn't understand how he got her preferences right. This was exactly the reaction he expected from her, although she already knew that his drink would definitely not be worse than the one she tried first. Initially, when they said goodbye yesterday, she thought that their next meeting would not be soon and could not imagine that everything would happen exactly like this, in the best possible way. She thought that he was lazy, that he wouldn't find time for her, but in the end he came early in the morning, proposed marriage and made delicious coffee. They even agreed that next time he would make her caramel pudding. It was her favorite dessert, and if he did that, she would fall in love with him once and for all. After that, they decided to take a little walk. Monica is not visible on the horizon. This means that there is still time. She needs to recharge herself with good energy while she has the opportunity. After all, Monica is not the kind of person she plans to have a good time with. She is probably in for some kind of conflict. At that moment, he suddenly decided to tell his most secret ability, which no one knows except himself. And since she is already his wife, it seems to him that she has the right to know this. He has very good hearing. He can even hear what is happening a kilometer away from him, if necessary. The girl knew that he had some abilities and also remembered that if suddenly, in the future, she would say something bad about him, it would be better not to do it. After that, she asked him if he had any other abilities that he hadn't told her about yet. The guy remained silent, as if he thought that this would be enough for now. In any case, she didn't insist after all. It was his personal business, and it was good that he even told her about this. And then something interesting started to happen. Hints started to appear that Gilbert was not his real son, although maybe the girl just misunderstood him. She thought that it was too early to discuss such details. After all, it was his personal business, and they were not close enough for her to know about it. She stopped him herself, suggested talking about something pleasant. After all, there was less and less time. Monica would come to her soon. After that, he asked her about the maid, whom the girl said she would take with her. He became interested in how close she was to her. The lady said that she had been helping her since childhood, and then asked why he was interested in this and whether something had happened to her. At first, the guy thought about not talking about it, But then he started hinting that it looked like his son wanted to catch her. It is not yet clear where he got this information from, but he tells it in such detail as if he saw everything with his own eyes. But if this is so, then why didn't he help her? It was somehow like this, so that they would let her go. She was ready to tell everything that was needed about her mistress. They even asked her if she could betray her so easily. Well, she answered that, of course, she was an ordinary maid and not her friend. Moreover, her salary is not that high. After that, they simply asked her not to shout, but she continued to talk to them. Some man came up to her and started asking her to tell about her mistress, slowly, and all the most interesting things. She told what was closer to her than anyone else. And it would not be an exaggeration to say that she knows literally everything about this person. So much so that she knows her weaknesses and what can harm her body in a matter of seconds. One might think that she would really betray her, but in fact, the assistant did everything very sensibly. She told them the facts that would not particularly help them. For example, that the lady does not know how to whistle. These people really thought that they were about to learn something interesting. They asked to name the very ingredient that could take her life, but Sarah still doesn't give in and isn't going to follow their lead. She told them that Mevia sleeps very soundly in the mornings, then asked how important this information was and almost laughed. Then she added that the girl hates sweet potatoes, cucumbers, onions, and tomatoes, after which the villains realized that it was useless to communicate with her. They called her and her mistress crazy because there is no other way to call it. Her face has two sharp objects and she still dares to joke. They thought it would be a little different. At the very last moment, when they had already decided to get rid of the useless maid, the Duke comes and says that they have a couple of seconds to throw down their swords. He orders everyone to stop, to move away from the girl, and if they don't, they will regret it very much and end up in her place.